The story of Sigmund and Sinfjolti. As Sigurd rode the ways of the forest, he thought upon Sigmund, his father, on his life and his death, according to what Hjordis, his mother, had told him. Sigmund lived for long the life of the hunter and the outlaw, but he never strayed far from the forest that was in King Sigurd's dominion. Often did he get a token from Signy. They too, the last of the Volsungs, knew that King Sigurd and his house would have to perish for the treason he had brought on their father and their brothers. One morning there came to his hut a boy of 10 years. He knew that this was one of Signy's sons, and that she would have him train him into being a warrior worthy of the Volsung breed. Sigmund hardly looked and hardly spoke to the lad. He was going hunting, and as he took down his spear from the wall, he said, "There is the meal bag, boy. Mix the meal and make the bread, and we will eat when I come back." When he returned, the bread was unmade, and the boy was standing watching the meal bag with wide eyes. "Thou didst not make the bread?" Sigmund said. "Nay," said the boy, "I was afeard to go near the bag. Something stirred within it." "Thou hast the heart of a mouse to be so frightened. Go back to thy mother, and tell her that there is not in thee the stuff for a Volsung warrior." So Sigmund spoke, and the boy went away weeping. A year later, another son of Signy's came. As before, Sigmund hardly looked at and hardly spoke to the boy. He said, "There is the meal bag. Mix the meal and make ready the bread against the time I return." When Sigmund came back, the bread was unmade. The boy had shrunk away from where the bag was. "Thou hast not made the bread?" Sigmund said. "Nay," said the boy. "Something stirred in the bag, and I was afeard." "Thou hast the heart of a mouse. Get thee back to thy mother, and tell her that there is not in thee the stuff for the making of a Volsung warrior." And this boy, like his brother, went back weeping. At that time Signy had no other sons, but at last one was born to her, the child of a desperate thought. Him, too, when he was grown, she sent to Sigmund. "What did thy mother say to thee?" Sigmund said to this boy when he showed himself at the hut. "Nothing. She sewed my gloves to my hand, and then bade me pull them off." "And didst thou?" "Aye, and the skin came with them." "Didst thou weep?" "A Volsung does not weep for such a thing." Long did Sigmund look on the lad. He was tall and fair and great-limbed, and his eyes had no fear in them. "What wouldst thou have me do for thee?" said the lad. "There is the meal bag," Sigmund said. "Mix the meal and make the bread for me against the time I return." When Sigmund came back, the bread was baking on the coals. "What didst thou with the meal?" Sigmund asked. "I mixed it. Something was in the meal, a serpent, I think, but I kneaded it with the meal, and now the serpent is baking on the coals." Sigmund laughed and threw his arms around the boy. "Thou wilt not eat of that bread," he said. "Thou didst knead into it a venomous serpent." The boy's name was Sinfjolti. Sigmund trained him in the ways of the hunter and the outlaw. Here and there they went, taking vengeance on King Sigurd's men. The boy was fierce, but never did he speak a word that was false. One day, when Sigmund and Sinfjolti were hunting, they came upon a strange house in the dark wood. When they went within, they found 2 men lying there sleeping a deep sleep. On their arms were heavy rings of gold, and Sigmund knew they were the sons of kings. Beside the sleeping men he saw wolfskins, left there as though they had been cast off. Then Sigmund knew that these men were shape-changers, that they were ones who changed their shapes and ranged through the forest as wolves. Sigmund and Sinfjolti put on the skins that the men had cast off, and when they did this, they changed their shapes and became as wolves. And as wolves they ranged through the forest, now and then changing their shapes back to those of men. As wolves they fell upon King Sigurd's men and slew more and more of them. One day Sigmund said to Sinfjolti, "Thou art still young. I would not have thee be too rash. If thou dost come upon a company of 7 men, fight them. But if thou dost come upon a company greater than 7, raise up thy voice as a wolf's cry, and bring me to thy side." Sinfjolti promised that he would do this. One day, as he went through the forest in his wolf's shape, Sigmund heard the din of a struggle, and he stopped to listen for Sinfjolti's call. But no call came. Then Sigmund went through the forest in the direction of the struggle. On his way he passed the bodies of 11 slain men, and he came upon Sinfjolti lying in the thicket, his wolf's shape upon him, panting from the battle he had waged. "Thou didst strive with 11 men. Why didst thou not call to me?" Sigmund asked. "Why should I have called to thee? I am not so feeble but I can strive with 11 men." Sigmund was angry with this answer. He looked on Sinfjolti where he lay, and the wicked wolf's nature that was in the skin came over him. He sprang upon him, sinking his teeth in Sinfjolti's throat. Sinfjolti lay gasping in the throes of death, and Sigmund, knowing the deadly grip that was in those jaws of his, howled his anguish. Then, as he licked the face of his comrade, he saw 2 weasels meet. They began to fight, one with the other, and the first caught the second at the throat, and bit him with his teeth, and laid him out as in death. Sigmund marked the combat and the end of it. But then the first weasel ran and found leaves of a certain herb, and he put them upon his comrade's wound, and the herb cured the wound, and the weasel that was bitten rose up and was sound and swift again. Sigmund went searching for the herb that he saw the weasel carry to his comrade, and as he sought for it, he saw a raven with a leaf in her beak. She dropped the leaf as he came to her, and behold, it was the same leaf as the weasel had brought to his comrade. Sigmund took it and laid it upon the wound he had made in Sinfjolti's throat, and the wound healed, and Sinfjolti was sound once more. They went back to their hut in the forest, and the next day they burnt the wolfskins, and they prayed the gods that they never be afflicted with the wolf's evil nature again. And Sigmund and Sinfjolti never afterwards changed their shapes.